What is it about breaking a rule that feels so electrifying? Picture a moment, sneaking past a "do not enter" sign, bending a social norm just to see what happens, or defying an expectation that everyone else follows. That rush, heart racing, mind sharp, a fleeting sense of control. Why does it grip us so tightly? Defying moral or social boundaries can feel like unlocking a hidden power, a thrill that's both intoxicating and dangerous. But what drives this urge to cross the line? Why do rules, meant to keep us in check, sometimes beg to be broken? At its core, the allure of breaking rules is wired into our psychology. Humans are curious creatures, driven by a need to test limits and assert autonomy. When a rule says, "Don't do this," it sparks a primal question. Why not? This isn't just childish rebellion, it's rooted in how our brains work. Psychologists point to a concept called reactance. When we feel our freedom is restricted, we push back to reclaim it. A no trespassing sign doesn't just warn, it challenges. Studies show that when people feel controlled, their brains light up with a desire to resist, even if the rule makes sense. It's why teenagers sneak out at night, or why adults sometimes bend laws they otherwise respect. That act of defiance, however small, restores a sense of agency. Then there's the dopamine factor. Breaking a rule triggers a reward response in the brain, similar to winning a game or eating something sweet. The risk, the secrecy, the moment of getting away with it, it's a chemical high. Researchers have found that people who engage in minor rule breaking, like jaywalking or cheating on a small scale, often describe a fleeting euphoria. It's not about the outcome, it's about the act itself. But why does this feel so powerful? Part of it comes from the forbidden. Rules create boundaries, and boundaries define what's normal. Stepping outside that line makes us feel exceptional, untouchable, even briefly godlike. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about the will to power, the drive to assert dominance over constraints, whether they be rules, nature, or even morality itself. Breaking a rule, even a trivial one, taps into that instinct. It's a taste of freedom, a moment where we rewrite the script of what's allowed. Similarly, Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that humans, in their natural state, seek to express their innate freedom, and societal rules often feel like chains on that primal impulse. Defiance, in this view, is a reclaiming of our original autonomy. This urge isn't new, it's etched into history and stories. Consider Prometheus, the Greek titan who stole fire from the gods to give to humans. He knew the rules, knew the punishment, yet he acted anyway. His defiance wasn't just rebellion, it was a claim to power, a way to reshape the world. Myths like this endure because they reflect something universal, the seduction of forbidden action. In history, rule breakers often become legends. Think of figures like Robin Hood, defying unjust laws to steal from the rich and give to the poor. Or consider the suffragettes, who broke social and legal norms to demand women's right to vote. Their actions were intoxicating not just for them, but for those who watched, because they challenged the invisible walls of how things are. Even when society condemned them, their defiance carried a magnetic pull. Literature, too, is obsessed with this theme. Characters like Milton's Satan in Paradise Lost, or Dostoevsky's Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment, wrestle with the thrill of stepping beyond morality. Raskolnikov, for instance, kills to prove he's above ordinary rules, only to unravel under the weight of his own choices. These stories don't glorify rule breaking, they dissect it, showing how the rush of power comes with a shadow. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard explored this tension, suggesting that individuals who defy societal norms often face an anguish of isolation, as their rebellion sets them apart from the collective. Yet that same rebellion can feel like an assertion of authentic existence, a way to define oneself against the crowd. Rules don't just exist in our heads, they're woven into society. They're agreements, spoken or unspoken, about how we coexist. So why does breaking them feel like claiming a prize? It's because rules often represent the power of the group over the individual. Defying them flips that dynamic. Social psychologists argue that rule breaking can be a way to signal status or uniqueness. In some circles, bending norms, like flouting dress codes or challenging authority, marks someone as bold or innovative. Think of the tech mogul who ignores corporate etiquette, or the artist who shocks with provocative work. Their defiance says, "I'm not like the rest." It's a gamble, but when it pays off, it elevates them above the crowd. The philosopher Michel Foucault saw this as a power struggle. Rules are mechanisms of control, and breaking them is an act of resistance against the systems that enforce conformity. Yet this comes with a catch. Society thrives on order, and rule breakers disrupt that balance. When someone cheats, lies, or rebels, it ripples outward. Trust erodes. Others feel pressured to bend rules too, creating a cycle. Studies on social norms show that when people see others breaking rules, like littering or cutting in line, they're more likely to follow suit. This can lead to a breakdown in cooperation, where everyone starts prioritizing their own power over the collective good. On the flip side, defiance can spark progress. History shows that challenging unjust rules, whether through civil disobedience or rebellion, can reshape society for the better. The catch? It's a tightrope. The same impulse that drives a reformer can fuel a tyrant. The thrill of forbidden power doesn't discriminate between noble and selfish motives. Thomas Hobbes, the philosopher, warned that without a social contract to restrain individual impulses, defiance could spiral into chaos, where the life of man becomes solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. For the individual, breaking rules can be a double-edged sword. That dopamine hit, that sense of control, it's addictive. Psychologists warn that habitual rule-breaking can rewire how we think about boundaries. Over time, small acts of defiance can escalate, leading to bigger risks. Studies on moral licensing suggest that people who justify minor wrongs, like fudging expenses, may start rationalizing larger ones. The line blurs, and the thrill becomes a trap. There's also the psychological cost. Guilt, anxiety, or paranoia often follow the high. Raskolnikov's unraveling in Crime and Punishment isn't just fiction, it mirrors real patterns. Research shows that people who violate their own moral code, even for a fleeting thrill, can face self-doubt or shame. The power of defiance comes with a shadow, the fear of being caught, exposed, or rejected. Immanuel Kant's philosophy underscores this. Acting against moral law, even if it feels empowering, disrupts the rational order we rely on for inner peace. The rebel may feel like a king in the moment, but they often walk alone. If the thrill of breaking rules is so ingrained, how do societies and individuals manage it? One way is through systems that channel defiance constructively. Creative outlets, like art, sports, or entrepreneurship, let people push boundaries without tearing them down. Think of the graffiti artist who turns rebellion into expression, or the innovator who bends conventions to build something new. These are defiance with guardrails. satisfying the urge while limiting harm. Another approach lies in understanding the triggers. Psychologists suggest that reactance is strongest when people feel unfairly controlled. Transparent, fair rules, ones that make sense, reduce the itch to rebel. When people see the why behind a boundary, they're less likely to view it as a challenge to their freedom. John Stuart Mill's principle of liberty supports this. Rules should exist to prevent harm, not to stifle individual freedom unnecessarily. Clear, justified boundaries lessen the allure of defiance. For individuals, self-awareness is key. Recognizing the pull of forbidden power can help someone pause before acting. Studies on impulse control show that even a brief moment of reflection, asking, "What's driving this?" can shift behavior. It's not about suppressing the urge, but redirecting it towards something less destructive. Societies, too, evolve to temper defiance. Laws, norms, and consequences exist to balance individual freedom with collective stability. But these systems aren't foolproof. When rules feel oppressive or arbitrary, they fuel the very rebellion they aim to curb. The dance between order and defiance is never static. It's a constant negotiation, as Plato noted in his discussions of justice. A society must balance the individual's desires with the needs of the whole to avoid discord. The thrill of forbidden power is a paradox. It's a spark that can ignite progress or destruction, a rush that lifts us up only to risk a fall. Why do rules beg to be broken? Because they remind us of our limits, and something deep within us yearns to push beyond. From the myths of Prometheus to the quiet rebellions of everyday life, this urge shapes who we are and how we live together. But every act of defiance carries a question. What comes next? The power to break a rule is fleeting, and its consequences linger. Understanding this drive, its roots, its allure, its costs, sheds light on a timeless human struggle. We don't break rules just to rebel. We do it to feel alive, to claim a moment of control in a world full of boundaries. Yet that moment, however thrilling, is only the beginning of the story.